The Gramps, there's nothing wrong with the old man.
Cheers, Gramps.
Yeah, we salute, cheers. And to you, Annie. Picture here, briefly, and everything briefly.
Oh, sure.
Touche. God, there's absolutely no respect.
Okay, first thing we want to know is how far back does the family's recorded history go?
It goes back to about, well into the 1700s. And as far as the Irish are concerned, I don't know because most records have been lost. During the early 70s, 17th, religion were used. And hedgerow, they didn't, or get married. My great-grandparents were married, they were going to church. So they made a record there, but it got lost. I tried to find it when I got into Talbot, and no, but the records are gone. And I do have almost complete records. Since they had primogenitor, and only the earliest one got anything of soup. So at 15, why, with no education, not a single word of English, but basically no training or education of any kind, why he skipped away from home and went to Freiburg and joined a party of immigrants who were coming to America. And they came, as several had before, to Rochester, where an earlier Glykov, not related, had moved in, got settled. And so all the rest of the Glykovs from Germany, whether they were related or not, would go to Rochester. He would put them up, stake them, get them acclimated so that they knew what it was like over here, and then they would fan out across the country. And so here my 15-year-old grandfather went from Rochester down to Ireland on the Ohio River, because it looked very much like the Rhine. And so he, I don't know, I've never been able to hear what his story was as far as getting established. But there were little villages all along there from people from the same area. And he married a girl in Ireton that was from a village 3 miles away from Futzen, where the family lived. And eventually, he became a pretty good woodworker, would make furniture, and he was doing quite well when the Ohio River flood of 1884 washed almost the whole town away. So he and my father got into a skiff, and they rode downtown, and they rode down to the store, and they were floating around the ceiling, and that led Grandpa to think, the hell with this noise. Rhine or no, let me get out of here. So he moved up to Newark, Ohio, which is in the middle of the state, and where there's no danger of flooding, and opened a furniture store there. Well, Glykov's furniture store. Okay. And then he opened up a furniture manufacturing factory, and this was a Newark, Ohio furniture company. And that did very well, and he was really coming along extremely well. So he turned the factory over to his second oldest son, Fred, and decided to move to Cleveland because Newark was apparently falling on him. He had money. And while he was up there, we opened another furniture store, and that was a big success. And then he and a bunch of other Germans that made some money decided they would open a bank. There was nothing more important to a German than owning real estate. And so they specialized in making loans to Germans who were buying land or houses or what have you, figuring they would never give them up.
Right.
And they were right. When the banks were all closed in 1933 by Roosevelt, the bank was so invested in frozen assets, mortgages, that you couldn't get any money for, that they closed the bank. But over the years, every single mortgage was paid off. And so I've got some pictures of the old bank in there. And Grandpa just kept growing up with the kids. He had 12 kids. 2 of them died in infancy, and one of them in Newark. And to show you how hospitals in Newark, and one of the 2-year-olds got diphtheria. Well, as dangerous as that was, they had no hospital. They had to put him in the barn. And my oldest aunt, Annie, went and lived in the barn and took care of him until the poor little cuss died. Well, she was so motivated by taking care of this little fella that she went into nurses training and was a nurse in World War I. And so they all spread out across the country, and my Uncle Paul probably did the most. He was a flyer in World War I in France, and came back and got a job at Goodyear Export. And he had the most exotic life you've ever seen. He has lived all over the world on first class steamers from A to B. Takes weeks and weeks. When you're filling in for somebody for 6 months to a year, you have all the country club privileges, all the free, all no expense bar. And it was a life that inspired me out of all of that. So when I was in high school, freshman high school, where they have, what do you want to do in your life? And I want to go in the export business. I want to travel. And it took forever to do it, but I finally did. Now the Irish side of the family, as I say, is basically lost in history, except for it goes back to the early 1800s. My grandfather was born in 1846, which was the absolute worst year of the Irish potato famine. And I often wish that I'd had years or time enough to spend to get the story. How did they exist through the potato famine? How did they finally get enough money together where they took the two boys and they got on a ship, one of these coffin ships, and came to America? But that's all lost. There was one other McMahon that beat them over here, and that was a red-headed Kate McMahon, a very strong-minded woman, the record said. And she decided she was going to go to America. No! You've got a nice life here. When do you want to go to America? All by yourself, out there. I'm going to Chicago. Well, damn, she didn't go. Well, so when this family came to America, why, they headed out to Chicago. And they got there just in time for the Chicago fire. So they picked up, and what to do now? So they went back to Washington, where so many of the other people on the boat had landed and stayed, including two cute young girls that the brothers had met. And they went back, found the girls. Ellie had married them. And so that was even there's some possibility that Ed McMahon, the joy boy that gets all the money, he may be a distant cousin of mine, because everything he said ties in with his father, Will. And
really?
Yeah. So it probably. I've written him several times and reminded him that I'm a close relative, and he got a little better tip, but all they do is send me things to fill out and don't supply the stamp, so I gave up. Your grandmother, though, she's that.
She's hanging in there.
Yeah. But basically, that is the story of the two backgrounds. And here is the picture that I was telling you about earlier. It's a picture of the family in April 25 of 1897, and the names are on the back here as to who's involved and what their ages were. My grandfather was 45 at the time, and he was doing pretty well. He has a good-looking house.
You want to hold it up?
Yeah.
So can you show who these people are? Do you know who they are individually?
Yes,
Can you hold
it's
it up
all
a
in
little
the
higher?
back here.
A little higher, Jay?
I still recognize them, yeah.
Your grandfather is the guy in the center?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What was he like?
Oh, he was a wonderful man. I couldn't stand my grandmother. She was so bossy that she really kicked me around. Oh, disciplinarian. My grandfather was a pushover. And so he would take me, he was basically retired then, but he'd take me by the hand. We'd go to a bakery shop and buy it. We'd go down to, we'd meet some of his own cronies, and they'd sit there and play pinochle and drink beer. Yeah. And so, he just thought the world of me, and I adored him. And we had a remarkable old car, a 1914 Marion, and there's some pictures of that in this book. It's a touring car, and gas headlights, and
Oh my God.
fortunately, a tool kit on the side, because, boy, did you need a tool kit. We made one attempted trip from Cleveland to Akron. One of my relatives was living down there.
Which should be like a half-hour drive.
It's about 45 miles at the most. And we never made it. We got so many blowouts and punctures, and only one lane roads and mud, and so we never did get there. And barely got back to Cleveland. But Grandpa had a farm outside of Cleveland, a place called Settlement Road. Well, all of a sudden, the city moved into Grandpa's farm. It became West 130th Street. But we used to take the old car out there and sit on haystacks. It was a very close-knit family. Never any friction at all. But you could see that it was a family that just loved each other. And we would have these whole Christmas and Thanksgiving meals. They had a huge house and a great big dining room, which was used only on Christmas and Thanksgiving. And stained glass windows and a big table here in the center, and the little kids sitting on card tables around here. Boy, what a mob scene. And my grandpa had a favorite joke that before getting into the business of getting to work, you know, I was 15 years old before I knew anything but the neck of a chicken. But the old boy, when he died, he and my grandmother died on the same day, and neither of them knew that the other one was sick. He was in the hospital having an operation. She was sick at home. And here, on August the 23rd of, I think, 23, why, both of them, you can imagine what a surprise that was when they got up to St. Peter and the Pearly Gates. What are you doing here?
Wow. And how long were they married then?
Oh, well over 50 years.
Really?
And Grandpa had done very well. When he died, he had 10 children living, and he had the estate of $250,000. Now, I'd like somebody to figure out what $250,000 U.S. in 1923 would be in money today.
Yeah.
But here was a 15-year-old kid that had an accent like this all of his life. He could chop it with an axe. And my golly, he really came to America, and nobody else in the family has ever done anything like Grandpa, I'll guarantee you that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And I don't know what my grandfather did for a living and when he first got here, or how, but there was a story from one of my cousins that Grandpa had owned a bar on Constitution Avenue, close to the Capitol, and more legislation was passed than the saloon goes past in the halls of Congress. And he was very well off. He owned a lot of property, but for some reason or another, bad investments, I guess, he blew it, and he retired as quite a poor man. But my Uncle John became a lawyer and then became a judge, appointed by President Wilson, and he was appointed by, let's see, there would be Wilson, there would be Harding, there would be Coolidge, there would be Hoover, there would be, let's see, FDR and Truman. So his term would come up periodically, and they would report. So he died.
So they all reappointed him?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. He was about 69 when he died, and he'd been on the bench for over 30 years. And a remarkable man. He had me sit in the court with him one day, and I really learned about dignity and integrity. He was listening to one case, and I can still remember. There was this old colored guy that had bought a radio, and somebody had repossessed it. And so this was a case of, the man wants title for the repossession. And my uncle said, has this radio ever been sold before? Yes. How many times has it been sold before? 5 or 6 times. The full price was gotten every time for that? Yes. Motion denied. You keep make the last payment, and it's yours. From the old color book. But that's the type of justice that he meted out. And, he was beloved by the court reporters because they could always count on something in Judge Mack's court that was going to be a little out of the ordinary. He didn't put up with any nonsense. There was some guy arrested for disorderly conduct for playing football on the street on Christmas Day. And I said, who won? Things of that sort. And every lawyer in town, if their client was guilty, they would try and get him before Judge Mack because they knew he was going to get a break. And so, and his favorite sport was, of all things, reading detective stories.
Wow.
And he would not take a present of any kind. On St. Patrick's Day, why he would get boxes of cigars, booze, candy, this, that, and the other thing. Everything went back with a note of thanks, including candy sent to my aunt, on grounds that I would be getting none of these things if it were not for my position. And when nobody's going to buy me for a box of cigars, so that I don't want to have any contamination here of being more supportive of somebody than somebody else. So that he ethics, oh my God. And that was a thing I brought into government with me. And I sure found that ain't true. Yeah. But he was just a wonderful man. He's had probably more influence on my life than just about anybody. My Uncle Paul, the aviator, the export, the world traveler, again, he turned me off into that field.
Yeah.
So,
well, what happened to Judge McMahon?
Well, he finally died. He had a stroke and died.
What city was he in? What city was he in?
In Washington.
In D.C.?
Yeah.
When did you get to spend time with him?
Oh, we'd be visiting here very, very frequently. Really? Yeah. I was down here in Washington during World War I. And my grandfather walked me down the street. And I can still remember Washington in those days was a very slow city, red brick sidewalks, tree-lined streets, open-air streetcars, no such thing as air conditioning. And it was really a southern operation. Nobody ever hastened anywhere. But then I came back after the war and watched it go from that to what it is today, a real madhouse. I had one uncle that was head of the furniture factory that was a real sport, and he made a lot of money, so he was driving around in a Crusader, oh God, a big swinger. And his biggest customer was Sears Roebuck, so he would go to Chicago frequently and swing. Well, he brought back some sweet young thing he had met out there, apparently when he had been drinking. And she was not the best choice. His wife had died, he had a 5-year-old son, and his stepmother came in, and without Fred knowing anything about it, she used to just beat the hell out of the kid. Oh boy, as soon as Fred heard of it, out she went. And this was the first divorce that ever happened to the family. He kicked her tail right out. But no, everybody's been solid citizens, except somebody that I know. Or perhaps you wouldn't know him. I'm named after my grandfather, Justin.
Okay.
And Justin has basically run through the family for hundreds of years.
Yep.
Grandpa he went to Germany, only went back once, and found that, boy, he wanted no part of that country, police state, So he brought one of his younger brothers back with him, a chap by the name of Franz Joseph, and he settled in Newark, and apparently during that big flood, I have some newspapers that talk about what a wonderful help Joseph Lykoff was to people in their being affected by the flood. But then there's a little item in there that Joseph Lykoff has left Newark, Ironton, to go to Alabama to search for employment. And I don't know whatever happened. Nobody ever heard from him again. Yeah. So.
What nationality are you technically? And then I'm really not sure what nationality we are. I mean, there's a mix, but I don't know what exactly the components are.
Well, I would be just German and Irish.
German and Irish, 50-50.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how many components are there for us when you take into account, your components, Grandma's, and then the Davis side?
Yeah.
that you know about?
Well, there would be, well, your grandmother would be on the Mexican side, possibly some ties to the Spanish element. And I really don't know about much about your father,
Okay.
except that he was of English derivation.
What do you know about the family during the Civil War?
None of them were here.
None of them were here.
Yeah, the Irish side came in 1866, and the German came in about 1864. And here he was just 15 years old, so, you know,
Right.
but no, none of them were involved in the Civil War.
Yeah.
How about World War One?
I beg pardon?
How about World War One?
Well, the only one that served was my uncle who became an aviator.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Where did he serve?
I beg pardon?
Where did he serve?
in France.
In
Yeah,
like
yeah, there's
trenches?
pictures of him and pictures of his, you know, biplane. He was with the 99th Squadron, and I got a couple of excellent pictures here.
Yeah.
Here was my Uncle Paul, handsome guy, in France, picture. Here was my brother Paul, handsome guy, in England.
Wow.
Both pilots. They're known as O'Brien's, sons of O'Brien. This Mac, were grandson of Mayhem, who was Brian Burroughs' brother. So that's the way all that happened. And a lot of the Macs went with the Irish Brigade and went to Europe after they were licked by William of Orange. And this is McMahon. He was became president of France. He was a top general, and then he was made president. And he gave up the job, saying it's impossible to govern these damn French. But look, what an estate he had.
Wow.
Yeah,
That was his.
yeah.
What part of France is that?
Huh?
Isn't that going to be upside
I
down
don't
on the TV?
know.
When you're watching it?
Oh, now, here he is. This is a picture of him. And here's a picture of my grandfather. And by God, they look like twins.
Yeah, they do.
One of Napoleon III's most celebrated officers.
Yeah. He was over restoring the monarchy in France. And basically a bunch of, well, communists, Marxists took over, so they didn't take too kind of that. And here was my uncle's, my grandfather's. Well, here's a letter he wrote me in 1921 congratulating me on my scholastic ability. Which went rapidly downhill after the 8th grade.
Wait, what's that? Can you read that?
My dear grandson, I received your very welcome letter and was very much pleased to learn that you are getting along so fine in your studies. Why, your percentage lacks only a quarter point of being perfect. My grandparents, Grandpa wants to give you a few words of advice. There is nothing as conducive to success as a first-class education. With that you can, I don't know what you can do. And these are some of the things I wrote about the old family castle. And here's this castle, this down on the Shannon River. And we all visited it. I tried to climb in there, but I know.
What's it called?
So we settled for the local
Rigaholt, and it's the McMahon Castle. Now this was modernized in 1603. Somebody put a fireplace on the 6th floor. Downstairs was all guns and stories that the family quarters were up here. So they finally put a heating plant in up there. And this is just some shots taken. And this is Tarbert, where the great-grandparents were married. But can you imagine getting married in a hedge?
Wow.
Oh, and here's the judge.
Okay.
Yeah, here's my mother.
That's your mother?
It's the map of Ireland there. Just take a look at that.
Where was this picture taken?
Oh, that was taken at my grandpa's house in Cleveland. I think she knocked the fence down. Nobody had answered her, so she... Oh, here's the story about the judge back, and this is quite interesting if anybody ever wanted to read it. And here's, oh yeah, he even got written up on the New York Times.
Yeah. Wow. Municipal court judge. Washington's oldest judges and point of service. First appointed by President Wilson in 1970.
And here's just the handwritten notes, family notes, that one of my aunts made for my mother. And this is the cousin that told me about Grandpa owning the saloon.
Tom says I'm as stupid as I what?
Huh?
Tom says I'm as stupid as I feel.
These are more old records here. Yeah. Now this is a Glycoff coat of arms. Oh, the Irish is up there. That's...
Oh, okay.
Yes. And I've often tried to figure out this. I didn't know whether we were a bunch of chicken pluckers or whether we were just plain chicken. I don't know what the hell that means. Yeah, here's this little, it's right smack on the Swiss border, just a mile. And Napoleon got tired of the quibbling about where the border was to be, so he drew a line. And it went right through my family's properties. Half of them were in Switzerland, half were in Germany. And unfortunately, we could have been Swiss rather than Germans.
Wow.
If it hadn't been for the way that line was drawn. Yeah, here's the old boy.
That's your grandpa?
Uh-huh.
Our great-great-grandpa.
Yeah, that's my grandma. And she was a tough old biddy. Woo! God, she ruled me with an iron hand. Not that I needed it. And then here's these stories about Ireland. This is their marriage license, I guess about 1876 or so. Yeah.
State of Ohio, County of...
Boy, that's elaborate.
Yeah.
It's about as big as a bed sheet.
Really?
Oh, it's folded up into... And this is a census thing. Here was Grandpa, here was his oldest daughter, and then it was my father. And by that time he added on in a new sheet. But these are the things that from Ireland, 1883.
On your birthday.
Wait, what's this?
May 31st, 1883.
Yeah.
Our German friends, Essengers, C. Essinger, J. Glycoff, etc., departed to the world last Saturday via the C&O Road and the North German line of steamers. They're all from New York? No. They call from New York on the 30th in the steamer Wherry going direct to Paris. There they remain a short time, seeing the sights, and then visit their German homes. Returning the sail fog? Sail for New York from Bremen. Party expect to be gone 3 months. H.C. Bird Company sold them return tickets.
Oh, this is the boy that he brought back with him, and that just fell off the face of the earth. Yeah, and there's Grandpa's original furniture
that's
store.
the store?
Wow.
I also manufacture furniture, which enables me to sell lower than any other house in the city. Give me a call.
I see that the furniture factory he had was real good. We had some dining room set that was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Walnut, yeah. Oh, just perfectly done. But the depression knocked them out.
Yeah.
Sears Roebuck was their biggest customer, and Sears Roebuck just about closed out all ordering, and that knocked them right out of business. And it's
Everybody thinks.
Yeah, oh, he was a convivial soul. But look, the fancy writing in those days. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, that was my my dad, when he was small, and when he was a student at Ohio State, he was in the first class of architecture at Ohio State.
Everybody wore suits back then.
Oh,
They wore them
yeah.
all the time?
Yeah.
You know, when it was like 100 degrees out
Oh,
there.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, this is the girl that was a good musician, but a lousy financer. Sure, yeah.
That
Oh,
was
Grandma,
such a good
don't
one.
look at me like that.
Look at that. Wow.
And this is the one that took care of the baby until he died and became a nurse in World War I. And this is, now, there's another Justine. Now, this is my Uncle Paul, and he was a good-looking guy.
Must have been a very dashing occupation at the time.
That's my dad. And I couldn't find a finer man than he. He really taught me integrity.
And it's you?
Huh?
And it's you?
Yeah, yeah. Acetylene lamps. Oh, my.
Wow.
No, why did you wear that long coat?
Well, I don't know. That was the fashion. Though.
Oh, it just had nothing to do with the car.
Nothing to do
Okay.
with the car. Look at the longevity. Hey, really long-lived bunch. Yeah, this aunt was, I don't know, 92, I guess, when she... Jeez. She was the last. Now it's me.
How did you get all of these pictures and
Oh,
marriage
it took
licenses?
forever. Lee had some stuff from when they closed up the family house.
Mhm.
And she was kind enough to turn a lot of these things over to me. But it's been just putting a piece here and a piece there, and well, this was at the double funeral. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You look at the size of that family in 1939. Good night. I'm not in there. I was in North Carolina or South Carolina at the time.
Was this a surprise to everybody?
Oh, yeah. Gee. Now, these are the Germans. This guy is Justin. He was the mayor of Futzen and the Bürgermeister. And I saw his grave over there. Got a picture of it because I thought, well, this is a preview of things to come. Bingo. Ready to roll. Oh, yeah, this is... Paul and I and the two boys went over there. It's been 2 or 3 weeks just driving all around and finally found Futzen. First trip, we didn't even find it. Oh, this tower, this is the village church, and this tower used to be a Roman post, and that used to be an observation post. So you can imagine 900 years.
Wow.
Yeah. It's beautiful little rolling countryside, and oh, let's see. Oh, there's Justin right there. God, he's got a better setup than I'll ever have.
Look at that.
But there's one, the family compost pile, 300 years old. This is where Grandpa was born. And there's a compost pile over here that I'll bet you can smell it from here. Woo! You know, in Germany, they quarter the livestock in the same houses.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have separate quarters for it.
Really?
Yeah. And so you have the compost pile. And boy, oh, is that redolent.
Similar there with Ohio.
Huh?
Countryside, how that could be Ohio.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, it's right on the edge of the Black Forest. And this is when they were having their 900th celebration, and they invited me over. This old guy, he was about 85 years old when I was there, still smoking cigars, still riding the tractor, still drinking slops, still singing in the choral group. Oh, what a character. And he gave me a couple bottles of slops to bring back with me, and I'm telling you, they were something. These are letters passing out family information to other members of the family, one thing. And this, by golly, this goes back in Latin, 1789.
What is that?
Some church records. But they're in German. I have no idea what it is.
That's when Georgetown was built.
Yeah, and this, that must have been quite a binge.
Before you forget. Crutches, canes, wheelchairs.
That's
Pat that you on.
Yeah, that's Jonathan Clarkoff. You met her, Jay.
Yeah, it does.
Yes,
Everyone's on standby.
That's great. What year was this?
Oh, let's see. That must have been 10 years or more ago. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, that is good. These are some shots of that French villa.
Wow.
That marquee. Oh, yeah. I'll tell you this, he didn't need to worry much about his income. Wow. Well, hey, we're taking up an awful lot of time on the old folks here.
What about me? Should we take a break to get a drink?
Yeah, let's have a beer.
Yeah.
Let's have a beer break.
Yeah.
I think I've told you about his buying a Christmas tree. No, it was Christmas. But he had to go from 85th Street, no lots around there, and then he kept going, went down to 25th Street, looked around, finally found a tree. So he had to load it onto a streetcar, and the tail end of a streetcar was open to the elements. He couldn't even bring it inside. So he had to stand out there in the cold with the tree hanging out, and by the time he got off, why, he looked like an icicle. And I'll say that he wanted to save money, so by buying it at the last minute. He never waited till Christmas Eve again to buy it.
This is the El Chico.
Yeah, oh, yeah. And my dad was an architect in Columbus, and he got pneumonia and just about died. And while he had been quite successful, built a number of buildings and churches, why, he had to give up his practice and move to Cleveland for a year or so to recuperate. And then he got settled in Cleveland and finally wound up as a construction superintendent of a new idea in orphanages. Instead of a big building, they had 25 huge, separate houses where they boarded up to 25 kids. And this was to keep kids separate, where they had more personal attention. Wonderful campus. And, it was just a lovely place for an orphanage, gee. Well, then after that, when the Cleveland Union Terminal got started, why, he got hitched into that, and he was assistant to the building superintendent there. And this thing was a complex of 15 different buildings, a department store, a hotel, a downtown rapid transit center, and it was a railroad terminal. So it was 52 stories high, and at that time it was the largest building west of New York. And here he was up there walking on girders to go out and find out, checking specifications, making sure that everything was done. You couldn't got me inside the building, let alone outside.
And it's a beautiful building right in downtown Cleveland. It's legendary in Cleveland. That's sort of like the Maryland National Bank in Baltimore, but much more so. It's huge. It's got the skyscraper part in the top, and then two large sort of rectangular sections that come out of the bottom. It's a beautiful, impressive building, classically designed,
Yeah.
and legendary in the city, and they light it up. Every inch of it is lit up at night still. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that was a real advancement. In those days, Cleveland was a very important city. It was the fifth city in the country as far as population was concerned. It was a center of heavy industry, steel mills and so forth. And so the steel mills would belch all this smoke and soot. And prevailing winds being from the west, we moved to the west. All this crap would get over here and go east and drop it. And it was awful. But now, all the steel mills are gone, and that flats area where all the industry was is now a big recreational area. And they've really had a renaissance. One of the things I used to enjoy when we were kids, we lived fairly close to the lake, and you could hear the mournful bleat of the foghorns. On these foggy nights, and here were these long ore boats. They're 600 feet long. I don't know how many thousands of tons of iron ore they carried. But they had to come in, and then they had to twist their way up that river. And it was something to behold the way they worked their way up. Now there's only one ore boat left, and that is a museum. All the steel was gone, all the iron ore boats gone. But I went to public school for a couple of years because it was closer than anything else. We lived on 85th Street, and the school was at 100th Street. Even so, I had to walk that distance. But one of the thrills of my life was going to school one day, and I passed a saloon. You always had passed saloons in those days. And I looked down, and my God, there was a bright, shiny dime. Oh, heaven. So I picked it up, and I took it to school with me. And this is wonderful, wonderful. And I thought, no, my mother told me you can never keep money that doesn't belong to you. And you must try and find the owner. So I went to the teacher, and I, Miss Stone, here I gave her the story, and she was very much impressed. She said, I think we should go see the principal about this. It's very important. So she took me to the principal's office, and I told the story. And the principal said, gee, this really is a problem. I'll tell you what. We will wait for 2 days to see whether the owner comes to claim the dime, and if not, it's yours. Oh, for the next 2 days, I was pins and needles to scorpion. And they gave me the dime finally, and I have never been happier about getting money than I was that day. That was the absolute peak.
So you went straight to the saloon?
No drinking age back then.
And then I was going to go to St. Rose's, which is a pure Irish school, half Irish. But my brother got scarlet fever, and so I had to go live with my grandparents and go to a German school. And that was way down. I would trudge out of school and walk all the way out to where we lived and look in the window, and here was this big sign on the door, scarlet fever, quarantine. And I'd cry, and my mother in the window, she'd cry, and my brother cried, and then I'd turn around, head back, and walk all the way back. So then I got it. But I had a lighter case, and it wasn't bad for me at all because I was a history lover even then. And I had hundreds of soldiers, lead soldiers, of various, sometime marching, some laying down, some running. So I had lined them up and had battles. And I had several books of my grandfather's on the Civil War, illustrated histories of the Civil War. So I had them, and I would reconstruct battles. And that's what made me such a complete nut about the Civil War. Started even then. But this Irish school was funny. You talk about no man being an island. here I was, the name like Alta, being surrounded in a sea of Murphy's, Muldoons, O'Shaughnessy's, O'Toole's, Houlihan's. Oh boy. And, so, I had to prove myself with several fights, to make sure that they finally got the message that, well, half an Irishman is better than no Irishman. After I got out of all those days, though, I think I probably told you some of these things, but one day I was practicing whistling with my desk up. I'd never been able to blow a blast from a whistle. And so I had my desk up, and I thought, well, I'll just try a couple of toots here. And, I expected to be... Oh, I let out a blast that rattled the window.
Surprised yourself.
And then there was another time, I like to read, and so I had a book by P.G. Wodehouse. Now, in the 8th grade, can you imagine? I don't know how I got it, so that's a little advanced. And so I had the desk up, and I was reading P.G. Wodehouse. Birdie Whistler, oh, this is great stuff. Wow. This nun comes around from the rear. Wow. The river. Gentlemen. Got her. All kinds of bristles.
What was it like in those days, as far as the other students were concerned? Was there a lot of fighting? Was it very, very strict, and you didn't dare?
It was very strict indeed. But one time we were in line to go out to recess, and somebody talked. No talking. So the nun, immediately thought it was me, which it usually was. I didn't see her coming, and she gave me a push, and I fell and bumped my head on the desk. And I got mad. If I deserved it, I wouldn't, but I didn't do it this time. So I went out in recess and I walked around. Well, I went back in, sat down, and I thought, the hell with this. And I got up and walked out. Justin, where are you going? I'm going home. Come back here and sit down this minute. I'm on my way home. So I went home, told the folks, I said, I'm not going back to that school. Well, we had a long talk. They went and talked to the principal. And I was back, and that teacher never touched me again, I'll tell you. But, some of those old broads were.
Editing.
But basically, I loved parochial schools because they really taught you. They drilled you in the basics, and when you got out of 8th grade of a public Catholic school, why, you were damn well trained in it. So I never objected to them.
That was all through the end of high school?
Yeah, no, I went to, Dad built several houses in Lakewood, and we moved into one of them. So I went to Lakewood High School, and this was a big school, 3,000 students, very affluent, and we lived in the wrong side of the tracks. It was brand new property, it was just opening up, but it was, oh God, that new garish area. But here along Lake Avenue, Edgewater Drive, Cleveland Club down here, why, these kids were driving their cars to school even then. They would put on dances and get national bands and pay them $5,000 for a shot for one night. Wow. This was an affluent school. So needless to say, I didn't fit in. And I was a complete nerd. As far as my curriculum was concerned, I was bored stiff. Algebra, geometry, trig, chemistry, physics, anything scientific, phooey. Sure. I did well in anything having to do with English lit, history, writing. I was also editor of the paper, and the poor teachers thought I was doing so well. I'm recommending for the National Honor Society. Well, didn't take long to find out that I was supporting 66 and 2/3% of the class. I would come home with these grades on these scientific things, and my father, an architect, looks at, Justin, if there's one thing I don't need to worry about, it's you ever being an engineer. You're going to have to make your living with your mouth. And so
Who were some of your friends during high school?
Well, they had all sorts of cliques and fraternities. And of course,
In high school, they had fraternities?
huh? Oh yeah, oh, fancy. These are the ones that put on these dances where they pay an orchestra $5,000. Jesus. But I finally found a good bunch of kids who were, modest incomes over. And so we, of all things, began making a little club of our own. And it developed into a bridge club. And so every week we'd go to somebody else's house and 2 tables of bridge. And boy, this made a bridge shark out of me for a while. And but it was nice. And but I was completely non-campus menace as far as any accomplishments in high school. And so one day in my senior year, the principal called, and I was told to report to the principal's office. But now, I haven't done anything. So I walked in there, have a seat. Justin, where have you been? I said, no, I've been here. Well, look, your grades. You've been here all these years, and I have the college aptitude test, which everybody was taking then, And he said, you have the highest score of the senior class. It is 95% better than 95% of freshmen in college. Where have you been? Well, I had odd jobs. I made a pot full of money. Odd job caddying. I did all sorts of things. Anything. And so that kept me pretty well occupied without being worried about the social side of life.
So you graduated from high school in what, 1930?
1930. And then, where to go? So I told Dad, I think I'd like to go to the University of Alabama. Alabama? Yeah. And I thought Alabama was on the Atlantic Ocean. Needless to say, Dad squashed that in a hurry. But we finally got me set up at Notre Dame. And with all of these odd jobs and one thing, I had over $1,100 in cash in my bank account. And that was enough to take care of my first year at Notre Dame.
Yeah, not to worry about the quality.
Yeah,
Okay.
room, board, no spare. And so I went out there, and well, as I say, I'd been a nerd in high school. At Notre Dame, too small for football, too small for basketball, too slow for track. The Glee Club said I couldn't sing. So what do I do? I decided that, I'll go out for freshman athletic manager. And this was 1930. Rockney had won the national championship at 29. Harry was in 30. And so I would pick up helmets and carry water and do odd jobs. And I would sit on the sidelines during the games, and I'd be visiting team assistant time. Boy, it was really an experience. And I'd get in the locker rooms in the halftime and listen to Rockney, some of his patented, rasping voice. Oh, he could flip the hide off a goat at 10 feet. It was really wonderful. With all this going on, and I'd been such a dud in high school, I wasn't interested. All of a sudden I thought, hell, this is college. They're teaching stuff here. And I got interested. I became an A student. And so this was a big surprise. And when I finished off my year as an athletic manager and survived and got my numerals, 1934. Oh, that was a proud moment. If I had a chest, then I would have puffed it out. Well, I'll say this, for Notre Dame, it gave me self-confidence that I never had in high school. I was a total no. But boy, by the time I got through it, I was not only cocky, I had cockiness to rent. Oh, God. But I guess you all know my story of going to the dance with the Japanese ball team.
No.
Oh, well, as a manager, they had Japanese baseball team from Hosei University come in and play 2 games. And they stayed at a hotel downtown, and I was assigned to go down and pick them up, bring them out to the field, play, if we have any help with them, and then take them back down. And there were about 15 of them, and only one of them could speak any English. He was a Japanese Nisei from Hawaii. All of the rest of them, absolute no zilch English. So we'd start off to go downtown, and we get on the Tunerville trolley, as we call it, and we get down and you know. And I said, now, all right, everybody stick together here, or you gotta get to the hotel. And we get to a corner, and I'm counting noses. Yeah, 3 missing. All right, now you fellas stay here, and I'll go get, I rounded up to 3 with that nose plastered against windows. Get back, 4 more missing, get that. It was something to behold. Well, that particular day, period, Paul Whiteman and his orchestra were coming to town to play at the Palais Royal Dance Hall. And Babe Ruth and Paul Whiteman were the U.S., they were national saints as far as the Japanese were concerned. And so this George Mishibashi asked him, gee, Paul Whiteman, oh God, we'd love to go. Well, I don't have permission. I'm supposed to be back on the dormitory. Oh, gee. Well, okay. Yeah, somebody else signed me. I took him. And there was this big band, the crowds, and they were really dancing, and they stood there. Oh, they were in heaven, Paul Whiteman. And I was standing there having a good time, and all of a sudden there was like, flush. I looked around. Boy, here was a long hair and a Roman collar. It was the prefect of discipline, and he was a killer. Oh, you know, what are you doing here? It was an off-limits place. You could get expelled for being there. Not that there was anything wrong with it, but it was just off-limits for no other name. Look, hell, we had I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, go to mass at night. There were supposed to be prayers at 6:30, 1 10 o'clock permission a week, 1 10 o'clock a month, and then 12 o'clock a month. Yeah.
Wow.
So here I was, boy, exactly in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I explained, well, in the interest of Japanese-American relations, and trying to, you know, promote international goodwill and how they loved Paul Whiteman and Babe Ruth, and I just thought that this would be a nice gesture that they would carry with them forever as they went back across the ocean. Oh, God. Oh, he just froze me like an icicle. Be in my office tomorrow morning at 8:30. Oh, yes, yeah, God, what a night I had. So I went in there the next morning at 8:30, and he reamed me. Do you realize that Notre Dame has rules and regulations? Yes, Father. Do you realize that you are not authorized to change them? Oh, and he went in, oh, more. And I had to agree that, yes, I really wasn't in position to do what I wanted to do at Notre Dame. Well, all right, your campus for the rest of the 2 weeks. And I was expecting he would say, you're going to be out of South Bend in 24 hours, because when they threw you out, they gave you 24 hours to clear out of town, or the cops would pick you up. And I was like, oh, police force, I'll let you pick me up because I can't go home. Oh, boy. Wow, so deep down inside, that son of a gun, he did have a sense of humor.
Different subject. When was your first date?
My very first date?
Very first date.
Oh, it was probably my senior year because I was a case of arrested development.
Senior year of high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was another, it was a senior prom. And I finally was able to persuade my dad to let me drive the car. Take this sweet young thing to the senior prom. And so we go to the prom, and it was dull, and I couldn't dance for the damn anyhow. But get home with the car, and it had been raining and freezing. And I am driving my 1925 Nash, and turning a corner, and whoosh, 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 and whop. It was hurt. And there was they used to call them disc wheels, and it looked like a waffle. Well, so we some dad and what happened? So there was one final dance, and I wanted to take a real sweet young thing. So I got my mother, please let Dad to relent, let me have the car. Okay. So we go to the dance, it wasn't all that great. So we were coming home, and we stopped at a restaurant for a hot dog. And the street was curving, and there were streetcar tracks that went along with the street, and it was a rainy night, and I heard a hell of a thwack, and I thought, oh my God. Ran outside, somebody had come along, slipped, and tore practically the whole side off my father's 1925 Nash. So, in the garage, all it falls down. I called down to the garage. Anybody hurt? No. All right, so come on home. That was all I heard of that. He was getting better as that time went by. Because when I came home from Notre Dame one time, they'd built a new road from Lakeland to Elyria, 3-lane concrete highway. Oh, I'm going to go out there and see how fast this thing goes. So I'm tootling down the road with that, about 50 miles an hour, maybe. All of a sudden I hear this god-awful racket. It sounded like a donkey engine. I'd thrown a rod. Oh. Well, talk to her father. How did it happen? I was a damn fool. I wanted to see how fast it was going. Blah, blah, blah. He says, well, at least you told the truth. Never heard anything more about that.
Really?
Yeah. He was a long-suffering man because when my brother got back from World War II, he was a boy, he was a good heavy drinker those days. So. By this time, Dad had a new Dodge. The Dodge on. Coming home about 5 o'clock one Sunday morning, he made a sharp turn between two trees in somebody's front yard. And the trees were too close together for a car to get through there. Whoa! Wham! Both sides, and then he ran into a front porch step of the house, and that blew my mullet out. We used to call them the Golden Steps. Wow. So my father was shaving, and Paul came, well, I wrecked a car. I thought you would. That was it. But he gave Paul the refrigerator treatment for a while, and Paul decided he better get out of town. So he came out to California to stay with Joseph and me out there in Los Angeles. And that's where he met Lee again. So, and that's where he found an old bride. But, oh, my father, honest to God, I don't know how he was able to put up with all these things.
How was Paul after the war? I mean, is
he had some pretty intense experiences. And how did that?
He was pretty much a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the first replacement B-17 pilot in this bomb group. Everybody, there's only one plane left. It had all been shot down, no fighter escorts going on. And so he moved in there, and in those days, why the big problem was flying tight formation, because the German Luftwaffe would particularly look either for stragglers or for ships that weren't tied in and had a good field of fire. So he happened to be a damn good formation flyer. His flight engineer came to visit us one time and gave us a story about how good fellow was. But as a second lieutenant, he was flying the lead plane on a squadron.
Wow.
Yeah, because people would get killed, and his papers got filed up. He never got promoted to first lieutenant or captain, and so he was a deputy squadron leader. And his squadron leader got shot down. His best friend were coming back, and they were all pretty well shot up. But this guy was slow, getting slower and slower and slower. And the Germans were just waiting to come in. And this guy, I think deliberately, pulled out of the formation, went down, and waved, gave the signals. He lowered his wheels a couple of times. And one of the Paul's crew said, "What's he doing? Is he going down to surrender?" And he said, "Oh no, that's a signal for Paul to take over." And so, but this guy looked up, and Paul is quoted as saying, "Well, take your last look at Hendricks. We'll never see him again." And his best friend, and he was all choked up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brutal.
What was it like during the late 30s and very early 40s when all of this stuff was brewing and you saw, and then America got involved? What was that like as a citizen here, day to day?
Well, it wasn't difficult. You know, the war broke out actually in '39.
Right.
And so the way everything was going, first it looked like a phony war. That was called that because nothing was going on. Germany had moved in and had grabbed a hell of a lot of stuff and wasn't really doing this. But then when it began speeding up again, why the contracts coming in the United States, that got us started in shipbuilding, it got us started in airplane building and tanks and everything. It was a great head start for us. And I could see the war coming on. And at that time, I was tire salesman out here in Harrisonburg, Virginia. I'd get into Washington once in a while. So I always wanted to go to the Navy. So I went into the Office of Naval Recruitment down here one day and said, you know, I'd like to apply for a commission. Well, shut me out. They said, well, let's see, you got a statistical background. So they said, gave me some stuff to be a correspondence course in cryptography. And I took it home, and oh God, it was so boring. And the thought of spending the rest of a war, which was I knew was coming, looking at ciphers of 5 digits of numbers or letters, it started me being incredibly boring. And I said, no, I want to be a desk officer. So I went through the physical and busted it. Yeah, heart murmur, high blood pressure, and so that was in April of '41, and then Pearl Harbor. I was at home, and the word came over the radio about Pearl Harbor, and wow, that just hit us all like a really solar plexus. So I had to go back to Akron, and at the end of the week, I came back, and they were recruiting. Navy was recruiting at the Arm Guard, the armory there. So I went down there and said, you know, I have filed papers in Norfolk, and they turned me down because of X, Y, and could you give me a check as far as my heart and the blood pressure and all that? And if it looks any better, or you can give me something that says that I was in here, then I'll strike Norfolk and try and reactivate my papers. And this guy, bright young guy with stripes that were so bright they almost blinded you. Probably the first time he'd ever put his uniform on. Well, if I examined you, I'd have to examine every stumble bum that came in off the street. Wow! Oh, I was sure I said, well, first of all, I'm not a stumblebum, and second, I probably had papers in for the Navy before you did, and stormed out, but no luck. Yeah. And then I was with Goodrich in commercial research, and OPA then wanted my boss to come down, as they were setting up regulations for tires and tubes and all sorts of rubber products. And they wanted him to come down as a technical advisor. I said, no, I don't want to go, but I got a young fellow here that's very well qualified. He had production experience, blah, blah. So, all right, I got sent down there. And was in OPA for, a couple of months, and we started off with 13 people. And worked almost around the clock, putting these things. The only other member of the staff was a gasoline station owner that also knew the tires were round. And so we were the only ones that had any idea about what a tire was or what it was made of. And so we finally beat out preliminary regulations. And then the college professor began pouring out. Everybody that was there was out bringing in his friends from XYU and oh, boy. And they all came in, and they'd sit around in the canteen and discuss elastic and inelastic competition, and the Mendelian theory, and it was awful, and I couldn't stand it. So, but this time I met your grandmother, and she knew people over at BEW, Board of Economic Warfare, and so I got in touch with somebody over there, and they picked me up right away. Well, I walked into the place. The office was a former apartment building. Brand new, never been occupied. And my office was one bedroom, and I opened the closet door, and there was a stack of paper almost up to the ceiling. They were export license applications had been sent in, and the guy was a good Department of Commerce man. And if you do something, you might make a mistake. So don't do anything, for God's sake. And so all these things are in there. And there may be 2 or 3 repeat applications, saying whatever happened. Well, I got that stuff on the way because I did have this excellent business. And again, I began to think, well, there's a war going on. And so I decided, well, I'll try something else here. So I went over to the Pentagon. I got in touch with motor transport. And I said, I've got a good background in tires. I've had production experience, and I was also a service representative, as adjuster. Anytime it would go wrong, and wow, were they glad to see me, because all these southern route Lend-Lease shipments were going into the Persian Gulf, and the ports were nothing, and the roads were nothing. Nothing but potholes and rocks, and the trucks were overloaded, and the heat was 135 degrees during the day, and they were popping tires. We were supposed to be going across land into Russia within 10 or 15 miles. So I looked good with them. And sent over to Walter Reed Hospital. And okay, I went over there. And I was there, I weighed about 130 pounds soaking wet with my suit on. And so I told the guy, I said, can you bump that scale up a little bit? Listen, man, and so he got me up from about 130 to 142 or something like that. And along comes the captain, he says, let's take a look at it. He says, wait, takes a look at me, look at this. He says, Sergeant, have you had this scale calibrated lately? I said, no, sir. Well, I suggest that you walk over about a mile away to another building, weigh yourself on that scale, and then come back here and weigh yourself on this scale to make sure that the calibration of this one's right. Oh, brother, poor guy. He was trying to help me. So I busted out again. Same damn thing, heart murmur, blood pressure. Wow.
That's all I can try.
Yeah. But then we had a change. They brought in a new guy as head of the rubber division. And he was a former Goodyear man. and he had gotten into trouble in some kind of Mexico. So they shipped him off to Washington and told him, now you better take care of the old school. And Jesus, the guy was a crook. In addition to tires, they were issuing equipment to retread tires for all use all over the world. And so, boy, he was giving Goodyear all kinds of stuff. So he came to me one day and said, here, I'd like to have you sign some application. I looked at him, sure enough, here are more tire retread plants for Goodyear. I said, no, I have nothing to do with this. They're your baby, you sign them. Well, needless to say, I never got a raise. But a few months later, the draft came along, and this guy calls me up and said, well, you know, I can get you a drafty permit. Now, what in the hell should I have a drafty permit for? And he said, Glykoff, I know you think I'm a son of a bitch. I didn't say a word. I just sat there and smiled. Oh. So I busted the draft.
Wow.
So what happened after you graduated college?
I went to work for well, I had 2 jobs. This was rather interesting. The Depression was so bad, there were 30 million people out of work.
So wait, you graduated in 34.
34.
And the Depression started in 29.
I started actually in 30 and kept getting worse.
Okay.
And so 32 and 3 was probably the worst, and then 34 was still bad. It didn't actually end until the war started, and all these war orders came in, and that really got industry going. But here I'd not been a jock, you know, and I'd come here from Notre Dame, and you know, geez, they got girls on this campus, they got dances, they got fraternities, and so I really was having a ball. But they had a message there that if you retain the B average, well, you could have unlimited cuts. B average. Well, all right. So I hung on to a B average. And said I was not a brain, I was not a jock, I was just a guy out enjoying it. And so when time came to start looking for jobs, I checked out an interview with Procter & Gamble and come with, well, both Procter & Gamble and Goodyear offered me jobs. And I was the only guy that had 2 jobs to offer at that time. And Procter & Gamble wanted me to go into soap sales down in Kentucky where my girlfriend lived. But I thought, no, Goodyear. If I go to Goodyear, I may be able to get an expert. Bad chance, because my uncle was there and there was no such thing as nepotism. I didn't realize it. So I got in this factory training course. They called it a flying squadron. And they picked up top flight college graduates and brought them in. And you were supposed to spend 3 years being trained in every single department of the factory. I have worked from unloading boxcars of crude rubber to loading boxcars with finished tires for original equipment for Detroit. Manufacturing, all phases of manufacturing. Well, I guess I've never been a very good team player because they gave us a bunch of hogwash about, oh, you know, Goodyear. Well, one day, the squadron leader came in before a group, W.E. Thomas, and he says, men, I want to tell you that if Paul W. Litchfield, president of the company, had came in here today and said, W.E., you're through, I would still love him. And a voice from the river says, bullshit. Bullshit, well, nobody scream about me. But this is my general reaction to the flying squadron.
So that was right after college. So you were like 22.
Yeah, and my first week's pay was $13. Think of that, a college graduate, leader of men. Yeah.
Wow.
And out of the $13, I paid $8 for room and board.
$8 a week?
Huh?
$8 a week?
Yeah, that was, well, we were working a short week, and then I'd take the bus back to Cleveland because I couldn't afford a car. Having wrecked, finally wrecked completely and finally the old 1925 van.
What was a good? You were apparently somebody that had a lot of fun in college.
Oh, yes.
What did that mean in those days? What were some of the? What did you do for fun?
Yeah, how did you get into trouble?
Oh, it was, well, we used to go outside and drink some bootleg beer.
Mm-hmm.
But
How did you get a hold of that stuff?
Oh, one of my friends had a car, and we would drive a few miles into another town. And there are other ways of the fellows that found their way there, and so there'd be a nice group.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no real serious problems. I mean, no nasty stuff at all. It was just fun.
Right. Okay. How did you get into the fraternity? How'd that happen?
Well, my roommate went that way, and I was recommended for it. But in those days, the fraternities would not take Catholics. And I think I was probably the first Catholic that was ever pledged by the Betas. And so I went in there and I got my pin and all that kind of crap. But they used to ride hell out of me for, Betas were only supposed to be pals with other Betas, and you're supposed to go with either side Tridelts or the Delta Camps, because they were their sister. Hell, I spent more time with the GDIs down at Ogden Hall, at the Sig House down the street, and the My Delts. At every fraternity meeting, they would raise hell at me for not spending enough time in the fraternity house. And I just thought, I spend my time with whom I wish and when I wish, and nobody tells me who I should be friends with. So I was always a rebel.
Did they have fun with you while you were pledging? Did they haze you?
Oh yeah, Haze Week was, this was a full week of hell week, Travis. And,
Like what?
oh, well, they paddle the hell out of you for one thing, but all sorts of crazy things, like carrying eggs in your pocket, and then people always bumping up against you, busting the eggs. And one assignment was to have bring in a rat. Okay, Chuck and I were over on home. Well, Chuck said, I'm taking psychology. They studied white rats over there. So we snuck over and grabbed a couple of white rats. And we took them into the fraternity house, and by God, for Hell Week, there were our white rats. And, so we took them back in the room, and we let them stay there overnight. And the next morning, why, a maid came in, saw her and screamed her bully head off. And the house mother came up and said, either you or the rats, get out of here right now. So we took the rats, and we took them back to the lab that night. And unfortunately, we dropped them. White rats look basically the same as other white rats. And we dropped them in the wrong case. And we really screwed up the Mendelian theory. And holy hell was raised about that. We had disrupted the scientific exercise. Well, needless to say, neither of us volunteered. And one of the other goofy ideas was, go out and count all the bricks on that street.
Oh no.
Yeah. Okay. So I went out and I got a square yard, and I counted the bricks in a square yard. Then I walked down, got the length, read the street, total number of square feet, and I figured out how many. I got back there in record time. What the hell are you? Going on, this is it.
And did they know the answer, and were you right?
Well, they didn't. Oh, they didn't have any answer at all. But they knew that I pulled the smart one off. And they did used to paddle the hell out of it. And I told Jay that I never went for that either. And a bunch of guys crawling around the floor, helping me swinging and beat them. And it wasn't until years later that I had a letter from fellow by the name of Tim Hansel, who was the curator of the George Marshall Museum down here in Virginia, Stanford, Virginia, I guess. And he reminded me that I had been his pledge master, and he had always remembered me because I had no use at all for paddling. I'd give him this, you know. And he always thought that, boy, that he didn't know how I would do it because everybody else was wailing away. And we had one pledge that passed out. And boy, he had to be taken to the hospital. He had some sort of, you know, heart attack or shock. And I thought, oh, I just, hell, that's bestial to beat somebody up when they don't have a chance.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Well, the Harrison, the tire plant in Harrisonburg, is that where it was? No way.
Well, that was where I was, you know, on that was my headquarters town for, I had a wholesale territory
Was that, okay, so where was the factory?
in Akron.
In Akron. And how was that in the summer?
Awful. And it was even worse in the winter because you'd get black snow. Snow like hell and it was all black.
Oh, really?
Yeah, by the time it came through the atmosphere and landed on my car, my Durango, there.
Really?
Yeah, I finally had a car. Here it was, about to be covered in black.
Because Ohio gets pretty, Ohio's kind of like here, isn't it? In the summer it gets really hot and muggy on occasion.
Yeah.
It's really hot.
Not as bad, really.
Yeah. I mean, because there obviously wasn't any air conditioning in the factory, right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, were you wearing a suit in there?
Oh, no, we'd wear factory clothes, you know, work clothes, sweaters, sweatshirts, heavy sweatshirts, and gauntlets here. One of the jobs was to put the tires in a pit. You put them in a mold and then get down into a pit. And you turn steam in there, 370 degrees of steam, and that'd be in there for maybe an hour or two. And then you'd have to take a crowbar and crack them. You know. Well, with me, I was still about 135 pounds. I'd bounce. So some of these big factory workers would come in and break it for me. And then you'd lean over, and there was this steam coming up, and you had your gauntlets up here, and you would have to go in there and unfasten the couplings, and then the ram would lift this stuff. At the end of the day, we had to drink oatmeal water because salt or anything else wouldn't possibly work. So you drank gallons of oatmeal water, and that kept you from passing out. But you go in the locker room in the morning, and here are the clothes that you'd had on yesterday. Still and soggy and wet and clammy and miserable. And,
Yeah, that must have just been hell. I mean, nobody had air conditioning at all.
No.
When was the first time you even experienced air conditioning?
boy, that's, I really can't recall. But it was well after the war.
Yeah.
I mean, the air conditioning had been heard of, but nobody had done anything about it, either before the war or during the war. So it had to be well after the war.
What were some of the inventions that are just commonplace nowadays that you were most impressed with, most excited about?
Oh, television.
Television?
Yeah. And that came in the 40s. And your mother, we lived in this little, and we didn't have a television set. And so she would want to go around and see the neighbors and watch Howdy Doody and things like that. So your grandmother, as usual, got mad at me. If I wait on you for anything, I'll wait forever. And she was on the Sears Road and came home with a 12-inch television set. Oh, great. So we plug it in, turn it on. Wait. Wait. And then all of a sudden a white horizontal line appears across the set. And, well, it must be about to do something now. Waited. Well, nothing happened. And so this gave me a rare moment of joy. You will rush out. Rush up with a hammer out of me. So I took the set back, and somebody had failed to connect a few wires. So we got another one that worked, and that was our introduction to television. And in those days, well, we'd stay up. I'd get in bed before 10 o'clock, wasn't it? But then I'd stay up till 11 or 12 o'clock to watch all these late shows. Oh, it was great stuff. there was a statuesque blonde by the name of Dagmar. Who was about 6'5" and built accordingly. Cantilever. Oh, boy. Oh, every night was a treat to see Dagmar.
What about the telephone?
Oh, they had been invented for a long time. And I did have a peculiar experience with the telephone. In those days, you had operators. And, big telephone this high. And operator, would you get me this number? Oh, I got an operator one time that had a lovely voice. Oh, we began chatting. And, gee, it sounds great. Oh, you sound great, too. Well, let's made a date, I think. And, well, my God, she was Miss Ugly, 1935. Oh. And so I took her to a place that I thought, well, boy, I'm safe here. Nobody will ever know. Damn, there were 3 of my fraternity
So I guess that was the first and last date.
That was, yes, that ended our love affair, right?
So, let's see, where are we? Let's see. So after B.F. Goodrich, or after the rubber plant,
Yeah.
the tire factory, what was after that?
I went to, I went to commercial research, and I was sent around from pillar to post. We were making surveys of test results of programs in little towns, in big towns, medium-sized towns, this, that. And so I would spend 4 to 6 weeks in various towns to get these tests. And that was great because this was all in Ohio. And so I would get my Miami University yearbook, bring it with me, and I did a town. Who's in the book? From Zini or what have you. And so I was always able to get established pretty well. Yeah. And it was always nice to be out of there fast, too.
So how long did that last?
It lasted about 6 months. And then I got transferred to North Carolina as an assistant tire adjuster in Charlotte. And
So how old were you here?
let's see. I was about 26. And here, deep south. Boy, I mean deep south. And here you got a guy with a name like Lykoff, unpronounceable, unspellable name, a Catholic, a tire adjuster, a Yankee. And one of the standard expressions down there was, which I learned the first week. Hell, I was 29 years old before I knew damn Yankee wasn't one word. Oh, the proper place. Didn't have a car. His one broke. Oh, it was something. And I thought this is awful. Turned out, in retrospect, I look back on it, happiest period of my life. Had more fun down in North and South Carolina and Virginia. I finally was made the director of both, 3 states, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. And the claims were a total of about $10 million a year. And I was drawing $115 a month. I mean, who could ask for anything more?
So you did that for 3 years?
Yeah.
That was 26 to 29?
No, this was getting into 39 now.
No, age.
Age, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
26 to
Yeah.
29.
And then I got pulled back and then sent into Baltimore for about 3 or 4 months. Goodrich had a big new distributor set in here. They were giving them all sorts of support, so needless to say, they sent one of their most important executives down there. I couldn't do anything. I was sitting there because they had to have a warm body representing the company. But I had a wonderful time in Baltimore.
Where did you stay?
Huh?
Where did you stay?
Out close to where Jay and Loyola were. Here's what, St. Paul Street this way, and then there's a street this way, and then I was on a little side street, and there was a nice little bar at the corner, and I spent a lot of time in there.
What was Baltimore like in those days?
It was tooling up for war, and the row out here towards Bethlehem Steel was full of hot spots, and I mean hot spots. And so some friends and I would go out there and we'd meet some sweet young thing, and why don't you come home? And then find out that they're going home, their husbands are working a night shift. Oh hell no. Wow. Yeah. Boy, as soon as I found I was tangled up with a married woman, I ran to the hills. No part of that.
Do you remember when you first, this sort of opposite, do you remember when you first heard the song Je ne regrette rien?
No.
The Edith Piaf?
No. But all I had to do was get to Paris, and I immediately started buying everything I could find of hers.
So then you were in Baltimore until...
Actually, until just before Pearl Harbor. I'd only been home a couple of weeks when that broke out.
Where were you working at the time?
In commercial research in Akron.
Okay. Still for Goodyear, or was this BF
This was Goodrich.
Okay.
Okay, so then you worked for Goodrich through the war. No, you worked for the BEW?
Yeah, BEW, yeah. OPH very shortly until I could bail out of that squirrel nest.
What was the OPA?
Huh?
What was the OPA?
Office of Price Administration. And they control rationing and prices. And I'll never forget one letter we had addressed to the head of OPA. Dear Mr. Henderson, I have a son who is strong of heart but weak of intellect. And I'm sure that he would make an invaluable addition as an executive on your staff. There were some glorious moments from those things. And everybody held the outfit in about as low repute because it was a miserable operation. I would have lost my mind if I had to stay there.
So then the BEW... So wait, where were you when the war ended?
Well, this is another story. BEW, at the very closing stage of the war, Lend-Lease had been handled by a Lend-Lease administration. So here it was finally turned over to BEW, phasing it out because the war was just about through.
Sorry, what was BW?
Board of Economic Warfare.
Right.
It worked two ways. It was an outfit that would go out and preclusive buying of raw materials and stuff so that the action didn't get them. And then we had to distribute vitally needed products to our allies. And so Lend-Lease was shoveled over and given to me. And one day an order came in from the Soviet purchasing mission. It was absolutely unbelievable. Hundreds of thousands of tires, tubes, all transportation stuff. And God, it was awful. And there wasn't that much really to go around because that stuff was in pretty short supply. So I couldn't okay it. I sent through, smart. Would you send us more details regarding the necessity? Wow. Boy, the Russians came right back to the White House. And look at that. And so we got orders from the White House. Give the Russians anything they wanted at any time. Oh, incidentally, I'd gone over to the Pentagon with this thing. And said, hey, look at this, what gives? I can't believe it. And they couldn't either. And they said, what they're doing is building a post-war stockpile. And they're just ordering this. It was so fabulous that nobody could really believe it. And here they didn't need it now. This was the very closing days. And well, when I got the word that yeah, we were supposed to do this, that, and the other thing for the rest, I looked around, I decided I'm going to quit. I won't put up with that crap. And so we finally got hitched on with the LA Chamber of Commerce and the World Trade Department. That's how that got started.
So that was what, like 46?
Yeah, that would be 46. Yeah, 46.
So in the meantime, you had met Grandma.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we were married by then. Yeah.
So did you
This
know
was a fast romance.
Was it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How fast?
Oh God. Oh, just a very few months. I don't know. I questioned my sanity on occasion.
Well, we all do.
How did you?
Yeah, what was the situation there?
Huh?
Where, you met her in Baltimore or
Oh
DC?
no, I met her in Washington.
And how old were you when you met her?
Oh, 30. And I took a bunch of the guys that lived at this boarding house out to dinner one night and came back and parked the car. And in those days, my eyesight was better and my mobility was a hell of a lot better. And I looked up on the porch and I saw something new. And it looked very, very good. So I beat everybody up there, uttered the fateful words, "My name's Glyco, what's yours?"
So then, how about your first date with her?
Well, first day was that night. We got in that car and drove out to Silver Spring, which was then a nice place. And we went to one of these, barbecue stand, hot dog stand, something like that. And then from then on, we would date quite often. And before long, I'd been having a hell of a lot of fun, in Washington. And then all of a sudden, the fun stopped.
For the next 50 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how old was she when you met her?
Ostensibly 25.
It's funny, she still is.
So then how long were you dating and like when did you meet her parents after?
Oh, no, I never met anybody.
Really?
No. But I would say probably 4 months.
And you popped the question?
Yeah.
Where was that?
We were coming back from a concert, and a freight train was blocking the track. And as I watched all these romantic boxcars go by, I popped the question.
You romantic fool. And so how much later did you get married after that?
Oh, very short. I would say a couple months or so.
Really?
Yeah.
And what did her family feel about the situation?
Oh, her mother asked a very pertinent question. She asked her, "What do you want to get married for?" Because she had the world by the tail. She had a good job, and yeah. So, and she told Lee at one time, she said, Jay was such a nice guy that I couldn't let him go. And, I had several other flattering offers that I should have taken.
Where was your wedding?
And in Arlington, at a little church over there. I've never been able to find it since. Maybe somebody blew it up. It was January 29, 1943, a blizzard. The Washington Post pictures and headline, "Stay off the streets." But I didn't get the message. And this is an evening wedding. So I was driving to the church, and then I didn't plow into the snowbank and get stalled.
You are quite a driver.
Oh, this was, boy, it was yay. And so I slogged my way for a couple of blocks to the church, and we went through all the happy formalities. And then at the end, everybody, go back to an apartment. Two other fellows and I had an apartment. I had the reception there. So everybody got in their cars. I borrowed a shovel from one, And I went back and showed my car off. Here's the wedding party off to the reception. And I shoveling the damn snow.
Was Christina with you during your shoveling?
And then the
Was Grandma with you while you were shoveling?
Oh, hell, no. Oh, she's not that dumb. No, she was a safely chauffeured. No. The honeymoon was in the Waldorf Astoria of New York. And in those days, New York was pretty much of a deserted city. And we had this absolutely magnificent room at the Waldorf. It looked like you could play basketball in there. $7.50. Wow, you like them potatoes? Wow. Yeah.
So how long were you there? Forget it.
About a week. I ran out of money in a hurry because I didn't have any to start with. And she used up for something. I said she wanted to stay. Well, okay, I'll stay, but I don't have the money.
So what did you do while you were in New York?
Oh, some friends of ours were there, and we got together with them and went to a couple of nightclubs and went to a show or so. And it was just basically what tourists do.
Yeah.
RKL, Radio City Center, and all those things. Oh, New York was fascinating in those days.
What, during the war?
Yeah.
It was empty?
Yeah.
Did you ride on the subways back then?
Oh, well, well, I probably did, but my experience in subway was after I put in my first year at Notre Dame. And my father was so proud of the fact that I actually got through 1 year in 1 year. With grades, that he said, well, all right, we'll treat you all, we'll go to New York. And so, the last minute, but he couldn't go, but mother-in-law and I went. And we got off at Grand Central Station, and we had bookings at the Hotel Lincoln. And so I got cab starter and Hotel Lincoln. Oh, the Lincoln's booked. I mean, it's full. But there's another hotel, Hotel St. They have plenty of rooms, it's great. Wait a minute now, here I was 18 years old. Back in, get to a phone booth, call the Lincoln Hotel. Certainly we have your reservations. Oh, all right, now I went back. So I had some friends from there that lived in Long Island and visited them. But one day I decided to go to Coney Island and just to see it. And so I went by subway and coming back, it was a hot day, and I was seated next to a young woman and a baby. And oh, what a cute child. And the baby took one look at me and go, he's all over me. Good cook.
Hot day.
Talk about subways.
Oh, wow.
So how about then, skipping ahead a little bit, you got married to Grandma in 1943,
Uh-huh.
and Mom came along in 1945? 44, okay. And what was that like for you?
Huh?
What was that like for you?
Oh, well, that was a thrill. I really, because your grandmother and I have been having some talk about children. She had no more interest in children. She had 2 nephews.
That was good enough.
And that was good enough.
Really?
Yeah. And I made a remark about, well, yeah, you love children as long as somebody else has them for you. Yeah. But then, of all things, comes Mother's Day. And she had been doing everything possible to keep from being a mother. And so Mother's Day. And she got mad because I didn't give her Mother's Day present. What in the hell? You've been doing everything in God's world to keep being a mother, and what are you probably thinking about because I didn't give you Mother's Day present?
So then, obviously May 7th of 1944
Yeah.
came along. What was that like? What were the circumstances?
Oh, she was absolutely beautiful. This one picture I have of her is my favorite. And this is my favorite picture of your mother. Oh, she was a doll. All right. Annie, I can always tell.
Wow, that's quite a concoction you gave her there.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, I tried to liven it up so that instead of being this deadly stuff, frankly, that your mother gives her dog, it's probably healthier. You gotta have some fun out of life.
Should order me some ice on your mouth.
Yeah. So Gramps,
If any pictures without this, well, you know there's something wrong with the old man.
cheers, Gramps.
Yeah, salute, cheers. And to you, Annie.
Cheers, thanks. What did you call it, Brett?
Grandpa lies and videotape.
El Paso. I began doing a little freelance writing, travel articles, historical pieces, one thing and another. And one day a fellow approached me and said, "Why don't you write something about the Naval Armed Guard?" And I said, "Well, I'd like to, but I don't know anything about them." So he dug up the chap that had some basic knowledge, and I wrote an article for American Legion magazine called Unsung Heroes, because the Naval Armed Guard were not ever recognized as being even part of the Navy. People thought they were guards that just walked around buildings. And so when this article came out in American Legion, the response was so terrific that American Legion said they never had anything quite like it. And at that time, the Armed Guard membership was less than 1,000. It is now 14,500 and something. It just built up since then. And this is a service that has performed absolutely wonderful, heroic service on merchant ships and radio men, signalmen, and on the worst kind of rust buckets. And the casualty rate was terrific. And so they really appreciate that. And I had more fun. I'd crisscross the country going to Armed Guard reunions and having interviews and maintaining correspondence. And so this took me 5 years to put together, but I enjoyed it every minute.
So that came out in
1990.
and it went for a second printing?
Yeah, it was the third printing.
Third
yeah.
printing.
Uh-huh.
Excellent. And then some of the stuff on this side here?
Oh. I think you'll have to come in here. Well, up at the top is a plaque I got for being chief of the Miami field office for about 12 years. And I was also head of a Cuban refugee interrogation center known as the Caribbean Admission Center. And we discovered the first confirmed offensive missile in Cuba. Everybody had been denying that they were offensive. They were all defensive purposes. But we had two reports that, confirmed by a U-2 flight, proved that the Soviets had introduced offensive missiles in Cuba. And they gave me that award there. And underneath that's General Carter. He's making the award of that to me. This is one of my bosses. This is Dick Helms. He was former head of the agency. This is Alan Dulles. He was also former head of the agency. This one down here says, see, I sneak in, and that's a cartoon by one of my staffers.
Who is this gentleman seated at the desk? Again? The gentleman at the desk? Seated at the
Beg
desk?
pardon?
Seated at the desk? Yeah.
Yes, that is a former division chief of mine, one of the best men I ever knew. And that's my fraternity 50-year plaque. And this is the lone sailor, Navy Monument in Washington. And I have that statue on my desk over here.
Who did that come from?
Huh?
Who did this for you?
Well, I was seated at a bar in the Dominican Republic, and I didn't even know it was being done. And so when I finally got up, well, this guy approaches me, I said, Senor, you're interested? Yeah, and oh, what the hell? So I gave him $10 for that. But it was just amazing how good, how fast he was.
Yeah. Wow. Were you in the agency at that time, or was that?
Yeah.
What were you doing in the Dominican Republic?
Oh, the Dominicans were having a revolution, and Fidel Castro sponsored Pablo. And so we had a bunch of people over there. We grabbed all the brass hats that might be assassinated, pulled them out, put them on a boat, and took them to Puerto Rico, and provided safekeeping for them for quite a while.
It looks like he really captured. You look very serious in that.
Oh, always. Going to primary school, I passed by this saloon where I found the time, and this picture was in the window. And I would stand there and look at Custer, and oh my. Well, I wrote an article on the 7th Cavalry, which is headquartered in El Paso, and they had had a fire which had burned down one of their big pictures. So I wrote Budweiser and said it'd be nice if they made a replacement copy. So they not only did at the 7th Cavalry meeting, but they sent me several copies of this. And it's just the ideal quiet type of art that you enjoy having in your house. Yeah, this is the man of coat of arms. And looking at that, I can see these lions, and looking back over the shoulder, and I thought, boy, these are the cowardly lions. They're looking to see who's catching up with them. And this is what the thing means. Winds up with, we guard ourselves in the faith. Made that and gave it to me. And I thought, boy, he's quite a guy. He's one of the most important variable defectors that have come on. Most of them are a bunch of duds. I can't stand them.
What's this?
Oh, I got them in Guatemala. Those are the most important gods of the Maya Indians.
Okay.
So the guy's name was F. Laurent from Czechoslovakia? Is that's the signature on this painting?
Yeah. No, this is, I don't know, I think it's just a block print of Miami, but we got him down there and enrolled him in the School of Art at Miami University. Under
There's a Czech political refugee.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So you got them fake passports and driver's license and all that stuff? How did there's that secret stuff. How do you get those documents?
Oh, you can just ask for him. Down to 5 and dime.
Yeah, you know what? I wanted to. Do you have a bunch of your letters to the editor that you've written?
Oh, yes.
Over the.
Yeah, oh, some nasty ones. Oh, God, there's some nasty ones. I looked at them the other day.
If you got some really good ones, I'd love to have you read them. You know, 'cause I know they're all pretty short.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? If you, I'd love to have you read some of those out.
Oh, yeah, well,
those are all gems.
Yeah, oh, God. I don't know, boy, you're going to destroy my happy disposition. Ooh. Yeah, oh, God, when I get steam, boy, I can really get fresh right now. Here you go.
Yeah, there's a rock band that just made a video. YouTube just made a video. And it's based in, like, Miami. This is like the 50s/60s.
Oh,
It's based in Miami at that time.
Oh.
This is very hip right now.
That's a really neat book.
Yeah, oh, yes. Yeah,
Very nice of
Yeah. Yeah, that and my little plaque there. There they go.
Yeah, that's true.
I was hastening after them.
Finish it.
Huh?
Finish it.
Oh, for I am their leader.
I'm gonna have to find one better.
You know, I used to get a real ribbing from, this was a hell of a good office. It was poking fun at each other. Oh, it was just great. We got along so well. I'm trying to find this one cartoon. Oh, here's a cartoon you like.
What's that dream?
Sure, they can put it around the office.
Great. Yeah, we're just we're about to head down to the restaurant. So we're just waiting for Lloyd.
Asylums, and he cleaned out his jails. And he told them to get on the boat. And so all these people that were waiting for their families to come and get on the boats that they'd come on, all of a sudden found they had a boatload of criminals.
Right.
And they were forced to take off with the criminals. And boy, they were scared to death. And these guys, when they got to the United States, they started a crime wave that went across nationwide. They were vicious. Yeah. The Marielitos, they're well known by every law enforcement officer in the United States.
Okay, while she's here, so...
Some kids of our own. When Haley gets a little bit older, you know, I want to show this to her, and kind of think of her as an audience for this stuff. And I was going to ask you if, when over the course of the next 50 years over our lifetimes, how do you think they'll be different from yours?
Oh my, the world is going to, there'll be no resemblance whatsoever. I grew up in basically a very sheltered town. Family life was very important. There was no problems at all with law and order. Cops were walking the streets, and they knew everybody, and everybody knew them, and they had complete control over their precinct. Life was, well, I would say life was sweet. And nowadays it's a nightmare. So I'm not looking forward to what you're going to have to go through in the next 50 years. I'll tell you that.
What do you think some of the biggest challenges will be?
Well, I think that we're going to have trouble from within, from government, from our own standards. We're going to fall apart like crumble from within, like the Roman Empire did. It took 500 years for the Roman Empire to fall apart, and that was basically from within rather than aggression. And I just have a feeling that we've seen the best of, I have seen the best of America. I doubt very much whether you are going to see a hell of a lot of an improvement. Our sense of values in those days was so much more sound than it is today. Everything is temporary. It's what do you get? How can I get it? How fast can I get it? And the sense of morality and basically ethics standards have gone to hell.
Is there any advice that you would offer to Kaylee or Haley or any other kids we have?
No, the future is so uncertain that, boy, you would be asking for a real crystal ball to try and figure out anything as to what's going to happen next. However, I don't think it's going to be a wheel of an improvement. We may be talking talking about interplanetary stuff, but that's still a long ways before anything actually happens. We're going to spend a lot of money practicing, but I don't think you'll expect any really concrete results, accomplishments from sending a few missions. But the missions we do send should be robots rather than manpower.
If you had the option to choose whether you were born the year you were born or born the year we were born,
I'll take the year I was born. No question about it. Because it was a completely different life. Families were the most important thing. And it was the closest of families. And of course, in those days you had family plots. People would come to their end where they would be put in with all the rest of their relatives in the same town. Now, God, we're scattered all over the place. So there isn't that sense of family community that there used to be.
why do you think that is?
Oh, it's a completely different world. We have gotten so mobile that instead of, being confined to a regional area, in a small area, my God, we can get in a car and our plane and go to the end of the world in a hurry. There's no relationship between the general tenor of life in those days and now.
On a slightly different note, I was wondering, what was the best thing about being married to Joe?
Well, that's an interesting thing. I mentioned that my Uncle John taught me ethics. And my Uncle Paul gave me a view of an exciting world that I really wanted. And had very little chance of getting. And of all things, marrying Josephine, while it had many disadvantages, she did switch me from the national to the international track. And I have fully capitalized on it. So I have to give her credit for that. She turned the switch.
Which has turned out to be one of the most important.
Absolutely, yeah. Change of life.
What was the best aspect of the relationship between you two?
Well, we danced very well together. She was a marvelous dancer.
Yeah.
And it was always a pleasure to dance with her, to the point where I seldom wanted to dance with anybody else. So that was probably our best moment together.
What about, how was having a daughter with Down syndrome back then?
That ruined their lives. There's no question about it. Changed them completely. And I'll give you one. I didn't think that we could go over there under those circumstances. I would not be able to do the job properly with a wife that was hysterical and with circumstances we'd have to cope with. I wasn't worried about the medical facilities, but it was just that what I was being hired for was to be a very prominent social figure, and I didn't see how I could care about it.
You didn't want to talk about it, though, with Justina? You didn't want to even bring it up?
Never
to
thought of it.
communicate?
No, I just, that was it. Make up your mind. Quit. Well, quit before you start. That has always been the most disappointing thing, I believe, in my career. Any career.
Well, with Terry, I know I've got very specific feelings about kids with Down syndromes, and they're all good feelings, and they all bring me happiness and make me smile. And I guess that's because Terry has been in our lives. What do you think is the most positive thing about Terry?
Oh, such genuine sweetness of character. And she would be an absolute jewel if she had been given more freedom. She would have developed a personality that would be really fun. And so she would be a lot better off than she is today. I worry about what's going to happen to her when her mother's gone and when I'm gone. I'll take her around, but it's a worry.
Do you feel that when children, adults with Down syndrome smile, and I just have in my spots are that when there's nothing as big as a smile from somebody with Down syndrome.
Oh, yes.
Nothing so genuine and
That's
heartfelt.
right. They're so full of love.
Yeah.
Oh, God, how they respond to affection, you know.
Yeah.
So, this is...
And they seem to be almost happier than able people.
Well,
so to speak,
I'm
you
sure
know?
that's true in many respects. Yeah. Because what they don't know, they don't dream about. Don't have the same problems to contend with that we do.
How about our mom? What have been the best parts about having her and your relationship with her?
Who? You know what I'm saying?
Our mom.
Oh, well, your mother has always been a jewel. I just love her. I was as much of a nutty father as you are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, my God. And so she's always been the joy of my life. We had more fun when she was a kid. I'd tell her bedtime stories and really goofy stories, and she'd love it. And I'd look in the bathroom. Oh, nurse, she's down the drain. She's gone forever. And she, oh my Lord, we used to have some of the funniest little jokes. And it was an awful blow to her to find out that she was no longer alone. You know?
How did you? How old was Terry when you found out she had Down syndrome?
Oh, within a week.
Within a week.
Yeah.
That had a real impact on Grandma.
Oh, yes. Well, both she and her mother refused to believe the diagnosis, of course. This is natural. And so they went around from one doctor to another, hoping for a miracle. Somebody to say, oh, yes, this is, no, it isn't what you think it is. It isn't what you've been told. And it was. And she has always accused me of trying to place Terry in a home. Well, our doctor had recommended that she didn't have much of a chance of doing it anyway. And he knew of a home for retired children in Toledo. And suggested I go take a look at it. Well, I went out there, and it was a perfectly fun, perfectly clean, wonderfully organized. They took magnificent care of these little babies. But I looked at her, oh no, I just can't ever think of parting with her. But your mother has always accused me of plotting to put her in an institution.
I have a question about being one of a set of brothers. And I was wondering if you had a chance to talk to Paul again, just for a few minutes. What would you want to say to him?
Well, it'd be a case of abrazos, real honest-to-God Mexican abrazos. And then the next thing would be,
That means heads, right?
let's have a drink, yeah. And then we would settle down to reviewing all the time. We were not only brothers, but we were the best of friends. I would trust him with anything at any time, and he was a marvelous man. Whale of a sense of humor.
He made you laugh?
Oh, God. Oh, God. Yeah. He was telling me one time, he was a good martini man. Yeah, needless to say. So he'd fix himself martinis when he'd come home. And the kids, I would watch him have his and so finally his older son, who was then I guess about 8 or 10, said, Dad, let me get a taste of that. And Paul said, oh, please, just a little taste. Well, all right, might as well show you the facts of life. So we let him take a taste of the martini, and this kid, spit it out. Oh, that's awful. And so my brother said, and you thought I've been having fun all these years. That's the kind of a guy he was.
What, if you had to pick 3 possessions, physical possessions, non-monetary possessions, that were your most valuable possessions, what would they be?
would have to be a selection of the music I wanted. And second would be opportunity to continue traveling. You know, that is the love of my life. And third, I don't know. Those two go a long way. A chance to pursue history, because that's again been my favorite subject. Place to go, historic, I've got read interesting historic life events, people, how to do it. My wants have always been very simple. I've never wanted to be president of a corporation, or never had any ambition to go out, exceed or brown nose or run over anybody. I always figured, go along, let me enjoy what I'm doing, and we'll see how life will take care of itself. If I got me a death.
What would you say are the 3 happiest moments of your life?
One would be my first night in Hong Kong. That's when it immediately flips in the mind. Let's see. I suppose another one would be planting my pin on my college sweetheart. That was a real...
Was it the Hague?
Goer, yeah. And
The Hague? That was her name, the Hague.
And I had a lot of so many nice things that I really, it's difficult to sort them out. There's the other.
What was that?
Well, I got off the plane, registered at the Mandarin Hotel.
What year was it?
Oh, this would be about 1982. And it was my first trip, and the rest of the Mandarin, I couldn't wait to get out and walk. So I walked down to the harbor, which is on the island there. So I walked out the harbor. I saw some junks that, they looked like, ferry boats or something like that. And they had signs on them. I thought, that must be interesting. And it looked like one was about to shove off. So I dashed over to a vendor and bought a couple of bottles of beer and got on board the I had no idea where it was going. I just stood there on the deck and looked at the harbor, and I was in heaven.
Well, a similar question that makes you think. How about 3 role models for you?
A big pardon?
3 of your either heroes or role models, most important figures.
Well, when I was a kid, I had, some of the old antiquity heroes. Horatius at the bridge, and Leonidas at Thermopylae. And, I was raised on stuff like Sir Roland's Perfect Knight. I really went for that stuff. In modern life, I would say my number 1 hero would be Harry Truman. I absolutely regard him with the highest esteem. I think he was the best president of the 20th century. And, let's see. I like to think about somebody else, but Harry Truman comes through there right off the bat.
Why was he the best president and you respected him so much?
He had more guts than taking over after Roosevelt died. Roosevelt had not told him a thing. He didn't know anything about what was going on in the government, let alone the atomic energy or anything else. And Roosevelt had been taken to the cleaners by the Soviets. He thought he could charm Stalin out of the trees, and he bypassed Churchill, who knew what he was doing. And so here comes Harry Truman, out of nowhere, Missouri. No education, no nothing. But he knew the difference between right and wrong. And he could tell when the Russians were, I don't care what they say, they are wrong. They are liars. They are cheats. They're aggressors. And he took steps all the way along the line to block them. And by golly, he did.
What was the scariest moment of your life?
most scariest moment of my life was when I beat a railroad train across the track with a few inches to spare. This was on an icy road, the curves, you couldn't see anything coming, and here was this train rounding the bend and coming right down on me. And I just thought I was going to breathe my last, but I gave my old Dodge 8 the full treatment and got across. But that, oh God, that was a close call. I think that probably scared me worse than that.
Just changing back the subject to one of the questions Jay asked before, you said it would be difficult for family, the communication and people being spread apart makes it difficult for families to sort of keep together versus the old days. What advice would you give these three brothers on keeping it real and keeping it together?
Well, it's going to be difficult because, you're scattered, and but by all means, hang in there. Stay close. You'll never know how much each other means to you. And it's only when you lose them, like when I lost my brother, boy, that hit me like a sledgehammer. And the strange part about it was, here I was going from Miami to El Paso, and I was going to plan on staying with Paul. Paul was 5 years younger than I am, perfect health, never been in a hospital in his life, I don't think. And I was driving along, and I was in Houston, filled up with gas, pulling out in the morning, and I thought, you think that you're coming out here to spend the rest of your life with Paul. What if he goes before you? Now, I have no idea what caused a premonition like that. But, oh boy, this brain cancer hit him like a ton of bricks. And he was gone in a hurry.
What year was that?
That was 1982.
How about, as two of us are and one of us is probably going to become soon fathers, what advice would you give to us as fathers?
Take full advantage of it. Enjoy these little ones while they are little, and boy, give them a lot of love. I don't care whether you spoil them or not. Give them a lot of love. My early days with Pat or such, I'd pick her up and dance with her, and oh my God, how she used to enjoy that. Like some of my small because then we'd be bouncing around, and oh, she'd laugh. Kids grow up so fast, but boy, enjoy them while you can.
Those are the most precious memories I have with Haley. Dancing.
And,
How about faith? What role has faith played for you?
a very important role. I've been in so much trouble over the years that I could have fallen apart completely and lost hope because things were so bad. And the fact that I have had the faith and held the faith has gotten me through some awful, difficult periods.
Has it been difficult at times to hold the faith?
Not particularly, although I have blown my top at certain things that I think are wrong, and I'm not hesitating to say so. But basically, I feel that I would be betrayed by ancestors on both sides, hundreds of years back. I mean, this name Lykov goes back to the Reformation, and so I could never change to anything else.
I think one time you and I talked about Dr. Kevorkian.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about him?
Oh, hell, I'd like to hire him.
All right, that is not funny. But you have beliefs about the Hemlock Society?
Yeah. But I'm in full agreement with assisted suicide. I mean, we have things like the Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. We are kinder to animals than we are to human beings. Now, I don't give a hoot what the church or anybody else says. That we should live and go through whatever and accept it. I could get some working over for breakfast later on.
I think that's real sunshine. I think so. I'm not positive.
you think so? It's not true. Okay, let's take a look at that.
You talked about America, the United States potentially crumbling like the Roman Empire. How, in your estimation, how long do you think that'll take, and how does that manifest itself, and how do you see basically the world evolving politically?
Well, as I said, it took the Roman Empire 500 years to gradually unravel. With the speed with which we do things now, it won't take us that long.
Do you think there'll ever be another war of the magnitude of the wars we've seen before?
Another war of what?
Like another global war
Oh, I would say probably sometime.
in our lifetime?
It's been historical, you know. It's been humankind to go to bang somebody over the head.
Are there any words of advice that people have given you along the way that you remember and kept in your head? Has been so profound?
I've been given lots of advice that I've not taken. Including shut up. No, I can't remember any specific advice. But,
Are there any golden rules by which you live?
Give everybody an even break. Don't try and grab all the marbles. Let everybody have a share. Treat them decently, courteously. That has paid off handsomely wherever I've gone in the world. Because I try and learn a few words of such things as good morning, good afternoon, please, thank you. And even though I don't know anything else but that, and with that with a smile, boy, I've gotten along without any trouble anywhere. It's just being genuinely friendly, very projective such.